I used to save lives. It's funny how fast people forget that. In those sterile white hospital rooms where I once stood like a god, hands steady, mind sharp, I stitched together the arteries of men who clung to life by threads. They call me Dr. Peterson, and when I walked through the halls of St. Mary's, nurses straightened their backs. Even the surgeons, those proud bastards, nodded when I passed. Now, I'm just room 214B. The nurse doesn't knock anymore. She barges in, tosses a pill into a tiny plastic cup, and mumbles, "Open up, Mr. Peterson," like I'm a child. I used to give speeches at medical conferences. Now they spoon-feed me mashed carrots. 67. That's not that old, is it? Maybe it is, when you're no longer useful. The last time I saw my son Mark, he stood by the foot of my hospital bed. He didn't make eye contact. Just fidgeted with his phone while the social worker explained options for long-term care. "There's a nice assisted living place about 40 minutes outside of town," she said, all smiles. Mark didn't argue. Didn't ask. Didn't say, "No, he's coming home with us." He just nodded. Like a deal had been made. My granddaughter Lucy didn't even come. I taught that boy how to ride a bike. I held his hand when his mother died. And now? He signs a form and drives off with barely a goodbye. I watched his taillights disappear from the window. He didn't look back. It felt like dying. But slower. The hospital smells like plastic and bleach. The clock ticks too loud. Every second echoes like an insult. My roommate snores through his oxygen mask and sometimes moans in his sleep, whispering the name Susan like it's a prayer or an apology. I sit in this chair by the window for hours. Days blur together. Outside, leaves began to turn red and gold, and I didn't notice until a nurse pointed it out. Autumn used to be my favorite season. Now it feels like a countdown. I once held hearts in my hands, literally. And now I can't even hold a conversation. "Dr. Peterson," the nurse said yesterday, correcting herself quickly. "I mean, Mr. Peterson." Sorry. That stung. Not because she forgot. But because she remembered and chose not to care. I don't blame the staff. They see this every day. Old men wasting away in two small beds with thin skin and thinner dignity. I must look like every other forgotten soul to them. Just a line in a file. A diagnosis and a discharge plan. But I wasn't always this. There was a time when I was the man people turned to in their darkest hour. I made impossible choices. I held mothers as they wept. I stared death in the face and sometimes I won. And now I sit here, alone, while my family eats Thanksgiving dinner without me. I heard them on the phone, Lucy laughing in the background while Mark told me, "It's just too far to come this year, Dad." Next time, okay. There won't be a next time. I know that now. But I didn't cry. I didn't plead. I just said, "Okay, son. Enjoy the turkey." Then I sat back down in the cold chair by the window and watched the wind strip the leaves off a tree that's older than me. That tree still stands. And me. I'm being unrooted. Forgotten. Thrown away. But you know what the funny thing is? I remember everything. Every sacrifice. Every sleepless night. Every birthday I missed because someone's heart needed stitching. I remember the blood. The tears. The damn pride I had walking into that every day for 40 years. I may be old. I may be broken. But I'm not done. Not yet. There's a sound the hallway makes at night, the wheels of the medication cart squeaking like rats in the walls. It comes around like clockwork at 2 a.m., right when sleep starts to wrap around my bones. I hate that sound. But not as much as I hate silence. Because the silence reminds me of the birthdays I used to celebrate with my family, when Mark was small, and Lucy still had her front teeth missing. I used to make balloon animals. Yeah, a damn heart surgeon making dogs out of rubber tubes. They laughed like it was magic. Now, I don't even get a cut. I remember the last time I held Lucy in my arms. She was 6. She had fallen off her scooter and scraped her knee so bad, blood mixed with gravel. Her mom panicked. Mark was yelling. And I just picked her up and said, "You're okay, sweetheart. Grandpa's here." She stopped crying the moment I touched her forehead. But memories fade faster than people expect. Especially when there's a new tablet, a new game, a new schedule, and Grandpa becomes a faded photograph in a dusty frame. They think I don't notice. The nurses whisper when they think I'm asleep. His son hasn't visited in months. He was a big shot doctor, can you believe it? Now look at him. Yeah. Look at me. I wear diapers now. I flinch when the 4-needle gets replaced. I struggle to hold a fork without shaking. And yet I still remember the exact pressure to clamp an aorta. The weight of a human heart in a gloved hand. The silence of a flat line. The miracle of a bait returning. They've taken my title. They've taken my family. But they haven't taken my mind. Not yet. The worst part wasn't Mark leaving me here. It wasn't the look of guilt on his face, that quick, cowardly glance at the floor as he signed the papers. It wasn't even that he lied, said he'd be back next week. It was the way he didn't fight. He didn't ask the doctor for more time. He didn't argue with the insurance lady. He didn't look me in the eye and say, "You deserve better than this." Because deep down, he believes I'm a burden. An expired tool. I sacrifice everything for him. Missed anniversaries. Missed funerals. I stayed at the hospital for 36-hour shifts so his tuition could be paid, so his college dorm could have a new mattress, so he wouldn't have to think about money like I did. And this is how he repays me. By parking me in a half-lit hallway like a broken vending machine. Yesterday, the new nurse, Clarissa, came in. Young, maybe 25. She didn't know my history. She read my file and said, "You were a surgeon." Like, a real one? The realest you ever meet, I said. It came out colder than I meant. She laughed nervously, probably thought I was being bitter. And maybe I was. But then, she sat down. And listened. She asked about my career. My surgeries. My patients. No one had asked me that in years. I told her about the kid whose ribcage I rebuilt after a car crash. About the mother who kissed my hands after I saved her baby. About the time I almost lost a patient on the table and brought him back with a last-second call no one else would have made. Her eyes were wide. She said, "Why aren't your family here, Dr. Peterson?" That question almost broke me. I didn't answer. Just looked out the window. The tree was almost bare now. Winter was coming. I think people assume age softens you. That you grow patient, kind, slow. But no. It sharpens you. You see lies more clearly. You feel injustice more cruelly. And you learn one bitter truth. The people you gave everything to will sometimes forget you ever existed. But I haven't forgotten them. And I won't scream. I won't beg. I'll just wait. Because winter may be cold. But it also clears the branches. And some things, some people, deserve to fall. There's something about the middle of the night in a hospital. The way the silence hangs. Heavy. Not peaceful, no, never peaceful. More like, abandoned. That's when the ghosts come. Not the floating, spooky kind. I mean the real ones, the ones you can't bury because they live in your memory. I see their faces when I close my eyes. Patients. Colleagues. My wife. My father. And now, my own son, though he still breathes. That's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't need death to haunt you. It just needs absence. I think the hardest moment wasn't Mark signing me into this place. It was the Sunday after. He didn't call. I kept the phone next to my bed like a fool. Kept checking the battery. Moved it to the windowsill so the signal would be better. I even dialed his number once, then hung up before the first ring. You see, when you've held hearts in your hands, there's a strange arrogance that forms, a belief that your own heart can't be broken. But mine broke. Silently. Without a monitor or a code blue. There's a man 3 rooms down, Harold. We talked sometimes. He used to be a high school football coach. One night, we were both in the lounge area, sitting in those stiff chairs with plastic armrests, and he said something I haven't been able to forget. They don't want to remember us, John. Because remembering us means remembering who they used to need. That hit me like a scalpel to the chest. Because it's true. They've outgrown their need for us. And instead of honoring us, they erase us. Clean cuts. No stitches. The hospital social worker came in last week. Young guy, fresh out of college, hair too perfect, voice too practiced. Dr. Peterson, he said, we are evaluating options for end-of-life care. I laughed. I couldn't help it. Not a deep laugh, no, it was dry. Bitter. Like sucking on metal. He blinked, surprised. Is something funny, sir? Yeah, I said. It took you all a month to go from recovery to end of life. That's a new record. He stammered, tried to soften it. I'm not dying, I added. I'm just forgotten. There's a difference. That night, I stayed awake. Just sat up in bed and stared at the ceiling. And that's when it hit me. They're not coming back. Not Mark. Not Lucy. Not anyone. It was the moment I let go. Not of life, no, I'm not done yet. But of hope. Hope that they would remember. Hope that maybe Christmas would bring a knock at the door. That maybe Mark would walk in holding his daughter's hand and say, we made a mistake, Dad. I let it go. And you know what? It felt clean. Like tearing off a bandage that's been stuck too long. I started reading again. Clarissa brought me books. Good ones. History. Philosophy. Even poetry. She said, you still have a brilliant mind, Dr. Peterson. I wanted to cry. Not because she said it. But because she meant it. I started writing too. Just scribbles at first. Then letters. Then full pages. I'm filling a notebook now. I write at night, in the quiet. Thoughts. Memories. Questions. I even started a letter to Mark. I haven't decided if I'll send it. But writing it felt good. Like clearing out a room full of dust. There's a power in stillness. In waiting. Not passively. Not like a victim. But like someone sharpening a knife. Quietly. Patiently. I don't want revenge. Not the Hollywood kind. I want them to remember. Not because I shout. But because they'll hear the silence I leave behind when I'm gone. They'll see the empty chair. The unopened books. The notebook on the nightstand. They'll wonder why they didn't call. And by then, it'll be too late. A few days ago, Clarissa helped me walk to the storage closet. She said, "You need a reason to stand up again, Dr. Peterson." I told her there were no reasons left. No calls, no visitors, no birthdays marked on the calendar. Just blood tests and pills and the daily humiliation of being told when to eat, when to piss, when to sleep. But she insisted. So I shuffled down that quiet hallway, past the bulletin board with peeling holiday flyers, and into a narrow room full of unused wheelchairs, broken monitors, and boxes nobody had opened in years. That's where I saw it. A mirror, tall, dusty, cracked at the edge. I hadn't looked into a mirror in weeks. Maybe longer. The bathroom one barely reached my chest when I sat, and even then, I never really looked. But this one showed all of me. And I stared. It was the first time I truly saw what they saw. An old man. Sagging skin. Veins showing through papery hands. Grey hair thin and wild. My eyes? They looked like someone else's. Like they belonged to a man who had watched too many people leave. I raised my hand to my chin. Touched the line of my jaw. Remembered what it felt like to walk into an operating room with my back straight, chest forward, eyes sharp. And then I whispered, "I'm still here." Clarissa was quiet. She didn't interrupt. She just waited. That moment, it did something. Not dramatic. Not sudden. But something subtle. Quiet. Like a pilot light flickering back on. I asked for a razor that evening. Shaved the stubble. Combed what was left of my hair. Buttoned my shirt instead of wearing the loose gown. I even asked for a different chair, something firmer, one with armrests, something that didn't swallow me like a dying man. The nurse looked surprised. "Big day?" she asked. I just said, "I'm not dying today." The next morning, I got up on my own. Used the walker, slow but steady. Made it to the dining hall and sat with Harold again. He chuckled when he saw me. "Well, look at you. You clean up damn well." We talked. Really talked. Not just complaints about food or the weather, but about things that mattered. Legacy. Family. The feeling of becoming invisible in a world that wants begged for your attention. He said, "They'll realize one day." I didn't answer. Because I wasn't sure I wanted them to. That afternoon, Clarissa brought in a folder. "Found this in the archives," she said. "Old newspaper clippings. Articles about you." I opened it with trembling hands. There I was, Dr. John M. Peterson, Chief of Cardiac Surgery, St. Mary's Hospital. Photos of ribbon cuttings, interviews, awards. Even a piece titled, "The Man Who Rebuilt Broken Hearts." That one made me pause. I had forgotten. Forgotten who I used to be. What I had done. Not in memory, no, the facts were all still there. But in spirit. I had buried myself long before they left me here. And now, I was digging myself back out. The final article was dated 12 years ago. The headline read, Dr. Peterson retires after 42 years of service. There was a photo, me and Mark. He was smiling. I had my arm around his shoulder. I stared at it for a long time. Then I slid it into my notebook. Not for him, but for me. Because I needed to remember that once, I was something more than forgotten. That night, I wrote a letter. But it wasn't to Mark. It was to Lucy. Dear Lucy. One day, you wonder why I wasn't around. Why your grandfather became just a photograph in a drawer. Maybe your father will tell you I was sick. Or stubborn. Maybe he won't say anything at all. But I want you to know. I loved you. I still do. And I hope, one day, you find this letter and understand that I never left you. They just left me. Love. Grandpa. I folded it carefully. Labeled it. And placed it in my drawer next to the clippings. Because I can't control what they remember. But I can control what remains. I stopped counting the days. Not because I lost track, no, I remember the exact number. 87. 87 days since Mark last called. 87 days since Lucy's voice echoed through a phone line. 87 days since anyone from my so-called family looked me in the eye. But I stopped counting because numbers give false hope. You think if you reach a certain number, someone will appear. Like a magic threshold. Day 50. Maybe that's when they remember. Day 60. Maybe a birthday, a holiday, a flicker of guilt. But day 87 brings the truth. They're not coming. And I am no longer waiting. Clarissa saw it before I did. You're different, she said while adjusting my fur one morning. I just nodded. She was right. Something had shifted inside me. Not rage, that was too easy. Not grief, that had already passed. What I felt now was stillness. But not the kind that comes from giving up. It was the kind that comes when you finally accept the betrayal and stop carrying it like a wound. I began speaking with other residents. Not small talk, real conversations. Betty, in room 218, lost her son to addiction. She hadn't spoken to anyone in weeks. I sat with her in the garden. We said nothing at first. Then we shared stories. She told me about the way her boy used to hum in his sleep. I keep hearing that sound, she whispered. In the walls. In the wind. I nodded. I knew that sound. Not the hum. But the echo of a love that still hasn't found a place to go. I started walking again. First to the hallway. Then to the chapel on the lower floor. Then out to the garden, just for 5 minutes. 10 on a good day. The nurse who used to spoon-feed me now watched as I poured my own coffee. Dr. Peterson, she smiled. You're back. Not quite. But close. I began volunteering. Little things, reading to residents with dementia. Writing letters for those whose hands could no longer hold pens. Clarissa even set up a wisdom corner in the lounge, an idea we both laughed at. But people came. Not many at first. But they came. And I listened. To their regrets. Their fears. Their aching memories. And slowly, something grew. Not forgiveness. Not for Mark. But something else. Freedom. One morning, as I sat by the window, the same cold chair that once felt like a prison, I watched a family arrive outside. A man, A woman, and a little girl. The girl reminded me of Lucy. Same eyes. Same awkward bounce in her walk. The man opened the door for the woman and the child raised a head, laughing, her coat unzipped in the wind. I smiled. Not with jealousy, but with quiet grace. Because not all fathers abandon their fathers. Some stay. Some teach their children to hold on to love, even when it's inconvenient. And some children grow up to remember. Later that day, Clarissa walked in with a package. No return address, she said. But I think it's from your son. My hands froze. I stared at the box. I didn't move. Not for a long time. Inside was a photo. Me. Mark. Lucy. Thanksgiving, maybe 10 years ago. We were laughing. There was a note, short and messy. Dad. I don't know how to say sorry. But I'm starting here. Mark. No phone number. No apology for what he'd done. But it didn't matter. Because the note wasn't for him. It was for me. Proof that I wasn't crazy. Proof that he remembered. And now? Now he would have to live with the silence. I didn't call him. I didn't write back. I just placed the photo in the drawer beside Lucy's letter. And I went to the window. The wind had returned. But this time, the tree outside wasn't bare. It had survived the winter. Just like me. This morning, I woke before the nurses came. No alarms. No beeping machines. No dreams. Just stillness. And the sound of rain. Soft. Rhythmic. Like a heartbeat. I sat up, swung my legs over the bed, and let my feet touch the cold floor. I didn't rush. The old pain in my head greeted me like an old friend. Familiar. Predictable. But this time, I didn't curse it. I welcomed it. Because it reminded me I was still here. Still choosing. Clarissa knocked gently. Morning, Dr. Peterson. Just John today, I said. She looked surprised. Retired the title? I nodded. Time to be a man again. Not a memory. She smiled, white and warm. I brought something, she added. She handed me a small envelope. Inside was a single piece of paper. Handwritten. Childlike. It read. Dear Grandpa. I found your letter. I miss you. Can I come visit? Love. Lucy. There was a phone number at the bottom. I held that note for a long time. Not shaking. Not weeping. Just holding. Like a pulse in my hand. I didn't call. Not yet. Because the power was no longer in her hands. Or Mark's. Or anyone else's. It was in mine. For the first time in months, maybe years, I wasn't chasing the past. I was choosing the future. But on my terms. That afternoon, asked to speak at a community group Clarissa had helped organize, a gathering of forgotten minds. Veterans. Teachers. Engineers. Mothers. Poets. People the world had labeled as used up. They sat in a circle. Some in wheelchairs. Some holding hands. Some simply surviving. I cleared my throat. My name is John Peterson, I said. A pause. I was a heart surgeon for 42 years. I saved lives. Buried friends. Missed birthdays. And for a long time, I believed my worth ended when my usefulness ended. I looked around the room. But I was wrong. I took out the letter from Lucy. Because sometimes, what we leave behind isn't the work, or the awards, or the reputation. It's the echo. The silence after the noise. The letter someone reads years later, and remembers who you were. Afterward, Betty hugged me. Her hand trembled. You reminded me I'm still a mother, she said. Another man, Raymond, whispered, I haven't spoken to my daughter in 12 years. I think I'll write her. I didn't tell them what to do. I didn't need to. Because sometimes, dignity doesn't shout. It just stands. Later that evening, I sat by the same window. The rain had stopped. The sun broke through the clouds like it was apologizing for the storm. I watched a small bird land on the windowsill. Bright red chest. Thin legs. Eyes sharp. A cardinal, I think. They say cardinals are signs from those we've lost. But maybe it was something else. Maybe it was just a bird. Or maybe it was a reminder that we're still seen, even when the world turns away. I didn't pick up the phone that night. But I placed Lucy's letter beside my pillow. And I slept. Not like an old man waiting to die. But like a man who had finished the last chapter on his own terms. Epilogue, a nurse's note. Clarissa wrote a short entry in her shift log the next morning. Mr. Peterson asked for his white coat today. Just to hold it. He said he wanted to remember the weight. He smiled all day. Walked twice. Sat in the sun. Said he was ready. Not to go, but to be at peace. They thought they buried me in silence. But silence became my armor. And in that quiet, I became whole again.
Subscribe and like. And tell your friends about this video.